I'm now the current chair of the Fraser Real Estate Board.
Do you remember your first sale?
A doctor makes a mistake, it can be fatal. Yeah. A lawyer makes a mistake, you might go to jail. A realtor makes a mistake, you might lose everything.
What exactly is the role of a realtor?
The actual real duties of a realtor is actually to help guide, advise, and protect your client. There's a lot to it than just putting up a sale sign.
The real estate market today. It's a hot topic.
It's the biggest financial decision. Some people will plan for a whole year to go on a week trip, but they won't spend a month to buy the biggest purchase of their life.
A lot of times you get to hear about unethical practices.
What are you going to do to make the deal happen? Because you want that money aspect?
What does that sales trainings look like?
Just because you're talking all the time doesn't mean you're in a position of power. Ask a question and then shut up.
What are some must-do things for a new realtor?
Doesn't matter if you're brand new. Doesn't matter if you've been in the industry 10 years. Get the foundational aspects right.
I have a license. What does the first 6 months look like?
You can go months without making a sale. And the frustration, the stress that comes along with that.
The prices are in ways ludicrous.
It's really about planning. Sometimes one of the hardest things for someone to do is not get into peer pressure.
What does proper planning look like?
There's a big fundamental flaw with our high school systems. Fortunately, they don't really teach credit. They don't teach the value of banking.
A lot of people have been flipping properties left, right, center. I know a lot of people who are now stuck with like 4, 5, 6 houses.
People are trying to sell their property for even less than what they paid for it. They're willing to lose money because that's what the market is right now.
Some of the practices that realtors lately have been doing on social media, from marketing to singing songs to dancing.
It becomes a moral decision for that realtors. Are you keeping the industry name in a good position? Mm-hmm. And is that the image you want to portray? Mm-hmm.
Sat Sri Akal, Namaste, hello and welcome to another episode of the Truth Tribe podcast. I'm your host Ravi Toor, and today is a special day for us because as you can already see, we're out of the studio and in a live interview with a very special guest, Mr. Jeff Chadha. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a long time, right? Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, it's been a long time, so I'm looking forward to our conversation. So why don't we start off with just a quick introduction about who you are, what do you do?
My name is Jeff Chadha. I've been a realtor in Surrey, BC for about almost 22 years. I'm actually now the current chair or president of the Fraser Real Estate Board.
So to start off our conversation, real estate. When did you get started with real estate? What exactly was the motivator for you? And how has the journey been over the last 2 decades?
So I started right out of high school. I had aspirations to go more to law school, but didn't really find that was really my niche. So it was actually a friend's dad who had a conversation with me, told me, Jeff, you have an act to talk and relate with people. Why don't you think about real estate? I didn't take it too serious at that time, but started to seem something that was something I wanted to do and wanted to try. I got my real estate license, I think in 2002. I think that's when I got my license. Younger age, different time, different world, different atmosphere. And it's very scary getting into the market at a young age. So most people getting into real estate at a young age do it because they have family or friends or some connections. I didn't really have that, so it was scary at that point. But nothing that's easily given to is kind of really truly worth anything. So you have to work for it, appreciate it, and move on from it. So that's what kept the drive going.
Do you remember your first sale that you did? What was it and how did that feel?
So my first sale was actually to one of my oldest friends, a high school friend. His name is Brian, who's actually a very prominent realtor in Calgary now. It was actually that much more special because it was my first sale and we're very still good friends right now. It was a property in Richmond. Because it was a friend, it was even more of that nervous feeling that if you screw up, then what happens? But it was very memorable in that sense because you actually helped them buy their first property and it was your first sale.
The job of a realtor. What exactly is the role of a realtor? What are some responsibilities?
The common perception is a realtor puts up a sale sign, sells a home, and that's it. But the actual real duties of a realtor is actually to help guide, advise, and protect your client. There's a lot to it than just putting up a sale sign. And there's actually a lot that goes on in the back end that a lot of clients don't see. It's a very common myth that realtors, hey, make so much money. What do they really do? But if you actually really do a deep dive into it, there's so much to it than just putting up a sale sign. That's probably the easiest part. But the background of doing the paperwork, doing the legalities, a realtor almost becomes like a detective and a counselor. Because you're not just selling a home or finding a property. You're finding the right piece for that puzzle piece to go into. There's so much to it. If you're just asking what's the job of a realtor, yeah, technically it's buying and selling. But the duties of a realtor go far beyond that. It gets very stressful at times, and it's very hard not to take your work home with you. Because after you make that sale, it goes more beyond that. Did I do the right thing? Are they being taken care of? Did I do everything to the best of my capability to ensure that they are making the right maneuver? One small slip, like a doctor or lawyer. A doctor makes a mistake, it could be fatal. Yeah. A lawyer makes a mistake, you might go to jail. A realtor makes a mistake, you might lose everything. You might lose your whole life savings. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stress to it as well. The duties of a realtor is to help guide, advise, and protect your client.
Those are your core beliefs then?
100%. Like I said, there's so much to it. And the word protect is not just protecting them from the market, but sometimes it's protecting them from themselves.
In what ways?
Sometimes a client feels that they know what's best. So going back to the doctor analogy, a client walks in, or a patient walks into the doctor's office, says, I think I need Advil. That's what they think, but the doctor needs to ask you questions. Well, that's fine. You think you need Advil, but tell me what's wrong first. Are you coughing? What's your symptoms? Sometimes it's about protecting them from themselves. Just because that's what they think they need, it's not necessarily what is best for them. That's just what they believe. WebMD, go to any doctor will tell you, don't go to WebMD. You can fix your car. Do you need a mechanic? No, you can do it yourself, but the car might not run properly. Mm-hmm. Protecting them from themselves is probably very crucial. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that think they know better, or their friend bought 2 properties, so now they're an expert. But it's actually guiding them and advising them from the right thing to do, and sometimes protecting them from themselves.
Very interesting. How do you define success? What does it mean for you?
Success, it's many things to many people. To me, it's being able to do the deal in real estate and not have that call with the client crying, being upset. Being able to have a client call me back or refer their friends or a family, even after 10 years. That's a successful agent, not how many deals you do. You can do 15 deals and make a lot of money, but are the clients happy? Did you do the right thing for them? Were you worried about your financial success only? So if that client hasn't referred a friend or a family to you, then what do they really think about you? So success, I think, is determined by the repeat customers and the trust of them referring someone else to me because they believe that I did what was right for them.
And who will have the new role models and inspirations?
My father. From a young age, when he came to this country, and everyone has those stories like my father did this and I did this, and they walked 10 miles in bare feet to do this. Everybody has that, right? But it's really what you take from it. From a really young age, he had a very troublesome and struggle in Canada when he came here. So I won't get into too much of the detailed background of it, but through his struggle and what someone did for him allowed him to prosper. So from that hard work, I also learned the capability and understood of the art of actually giving back. It's not always about you. If you can help someone else achieve that level, that opportunity to become something and have their generation succeed, then I think that's the ultimate goal for me to pay it forward. So that would probably be my biggest inspiration. And that actually goes into my life and my real estate work because, like I said before, real estate to me, it's about helping someone else achieve their next level, the next goal. So it all stems from that angle.
So you currently are the president of the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board?
Yeah, it's now called chair.
Okay, chair.
But yeah, formerly known as president.
So what does a chair of a Fraser Valley Real Estate Board do? So let's start off with Fraser Valley Real Estate Board. What is Fraser Valley area? For those who don't know, what does it constitute?
So you have the areas that's in Fraser Valley is Surrey, North Delta, Langley, Cloverdale, Abbotsford, Mission. I don't think I'm missing anything. I think that's right. Those are the areas. If I'm missing something, he'll cut that part out.
So being the chair, what are some responsibilities? What do you have to do? What does your day look like?
The fiduciary duty is what it is when you're the president of the board, is to look after the whole organization. So there's a common myth that people have about directors or the president, is that we control everything, we can do anything, we look out for the membership. That's actually not true. We do look out for the membership, but we actually look out for the organization's best interest. By looking out for the organization's best interest, the organization will look after its membership. So it's never about one particular realtor, it's about the whole industry. So being the president, I oversee with my fellow board of directors, oversee the committees, understand what's going on. One of the biggest things that I felt was a real challenge is having sometimes people fall into a pattern of the past and saying that's how we used to do it. This is how we liked it. That's it. Like I was talking to you before about the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Yeah. Right? It's a great book. And one thing that I said at my very first board meeting was it's not about forgetting the past, but in actuality, it's about respecting the past to apply it today, to make tomorrow better. If I've done my job, my role properly, it's not about making my board the best board ever. It's about making next year's board better, in a better position. I'll know I'll be successful if I place the board in better hands next year, and so on. It's about progression.
When you say in better hands next year, how do you quantify that? What does that look like?
Better hands is a constant understanding of evolution. The industry changes. The market changes. Rules change. Being able to communicate with the members, being able to communicate with the government, helping our industry get into a position where we can actually make a difference. Like I was saying before, you asked about the duties of a realtor. The real estate board is really the tool to realtors what realtors use to actually help them do their business. Now, it's supposed to be a source of inspiration. They should come to the board to help them with their daily work, information needed, guidance. If we do our job properly, and a successful board next year will be able to understand the issues of today and help guide it to a position where next year we can help start solve those perils. Now, there's been things in the news a lot about unfair practices. Unfortunately, you're going to have bad seats in every industry, not just real estate. Police officers, lawyers, doctors, it happens. And if we do not stick together, understand what we need to make each other better, then we are actually doing ourselves injustice. It's really hard to say. I believe a successful board is one that keeps progressing further, understanding the needs of its members and the organization to help it keep achieving to a better position again and again.
So have a proactive approach and then try to just make things better constantly.
I think that's actually the real key, is that a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach. See, a reactive approach is something went wrong and let's try to fix it. Now, it's sometimes very tough to be proactive because you don't know all the issues that's going to come up. But if you situate yourself in a way to help expect that this may be a concern, this may be a problem, let's try to find ways to mediate that before it happens and be able to have a structure, a support group around you that will help you elevate not only your game, but the industry's reputation as well.
So since you've joined as a president of the board, what's been what's been the most surprising thing that came to your desk? Something that you never expected?
You don't really expect the amount of stress that comes with it. You take it home, but you really have to love what you do. To have the burden of being able to, not being able to, but having the burden to sit there, hear what's going on, and then hear from members, hear from everybody else that this is the issue, fix it. This is the issue, fix it. And there's rules and regulations that you have to follow as a president or a board of directors. That there is a system and there's a format that how things need to be done. And not everybody gets that. I think one of the biggest problems that a lot of boards face not just real estate, but a lot of boards face, is the communication with its membership. Membership thinks one thing, and they don't know the inside of it. You never truly know what a person is going through until you sit there. So even with a lot of directors coming in to any board, they sometimes have that mentality of, I'm going to get there and I'm going to change things. Even I did when I first became a director. That's not actually the case. It's not an I atmosphere. It's a we atmosphere. And that's what it is. And sometimes that's the biggest hurdle, is the onboarding and getting in there. So it's very surprising that the challenge of just understanding the position. And then once you're in the position, the frustration of how come people don't understand what I can do and what I can't do. One of the really funniest things is that when people come in, they have this perception of I or my, for example, my opinion. When you're a director, president, chair, there's no my anymore. It's our, right? So my opinion is not really my opinion. My opinion is that of the board, because we speak as all of one. So whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, you're all collective together. That's the real surprising and challenging part, is actually understanding the role, the position, and what that even entails. And sometimes it gets very difficult when you have members calling you saying, I don't like this. Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Sometimes you feel like, okay, we're like, really? But the composure of it and the patience sometimes it takes, that was really surprising too. And like I said, it seems really easy to sit up on stage or go to an AGM and speak for a 10-minute speech. I don't like public speaking. Believe it or not, I actually don't like public speaking. Everyone's, oh, Jeff, you seem really good at it. Just because I'm good at it doesn't mean I like it. Right? But once you decide to take that position, you have to own it. And I think I'm very blessed to have the position, the opportunity, and especially the board of directors I work with and the committees I have and the staff we have. I think we're probably one of the best boards in Canada. And actually, we're probably one of the most diverse boards in Canada.
Yeah, I think that's just the area of Fraser Valley. So many people from diverse communities that are a part of it. So the Fraser Valley Real Estate Board, how many members do you have? What are some of your top priorities? How do you protect these members? What are the things that you do for them?
Okay, so we have roughly about over 5,000, but we keep growing. Fraser Valley probably has the biggest opportunity of growth. We have so much land mass. There's so much availability to keep expanding. You go to any party, wherever you go, there always will be someone there that talks about real estate, right? So, and everybody wants to get in, but sometimes the challenge of people getting in is, are they getting in for the right reason? Now, people are just getting in just for the sake of, I love money. It's not the right reason. You shouldn't get into any industry just because the money is actually a side benefit of it. But if you really care about something you do and you have passion for it, the money will be there. But that shouldn't be, it shouldn't be the ultimate thing. That's why I want to do it, for the money. There could be months as a realtor or any profession where you don't make a sale. But if your number one aspiration was, I want money, then you don't have a deal coming in. What are you going to do to make the deal happen? Are you going to maybe do something not ethical because you want that money aspect? And that leads into my next answer, where your question was, what does the board do? Is we provide opportunities, knowledge, and give realtors that confidence to what to do, how to do it. Give them training, give them classes, give them the opportunity for information to learn. Because as realtors, we actually do hold a lot of power in someone's success or failure. So if we ourselves aren't professionals in the industry, and as a board, we don't support our members to give them the tools they need to succeed, then I think we as a board failed. So our job, or the board's job, is to actually equip our membership to be able to go out there and to help guide, advise, and protect our clients.
So you mentioned something ethical. A lot of times you get to hear about some unethical practices. What is your take on it? What do you do about it as a board? So if somebody, like one of the members off the board, has a complaint against him or her, are you still protecting them? Are you protecting the client? What's your onus at that time?
So we have the Fraser Valley Board, we have a complaint, professional conduct department. Now, when a member of the public complains on a realtor, they go to BCFSA. But when it's a realtor-to-realtor complaint, then we as a board look into it. So we look after compliance issues. Was there something wrong with the contract? Was there something ethically wrong in terms of that realtor lied to the client, do something wrong? Did they actually... So you're a realtor when you're awake and you're a realtor when you're sleeping. Maybe a realtor was out at an event and did something wrong. Yeah. Got really drunk, punched someone, I don't know. Okay. Now, another realtor saw that and complained. That is an aspect because we are a source of public trust. We have to hold the integrity of the industry. So we, as a board, take those things very serious. So it's not about protecting that realtor. It's about protecting the industry and the organization. And if a realtor starts doing unethical practices, lying about commissions, lying about the deal itself, for instance, oh, this home is beautiful and it's no problems with it, and I think you'll be happy here. But there was a grow up in it, and the realtor could have found that out. There's termites, the foundation's bad. Mm-hmm. Why did the realtor do that? Was he actually only looking out for their own self-interest? Mm-hmm. So those are issues that we take very serious. Right? So it's not about protecting the realtor as much as about being a safeguard for the industry.
Doing the right thing, basically.
Yeah.
And setting that precedence as to what good looks like.
Yeah, and sometimes it's very tough because as this position, you'll have friends, and let's call a spade here. You'll have friends saying, well, Jeff, I might get into trouble, so, just help me out on this. And it's very difficult because you get put in this moral dilemma between the job and the position you're at for the love for doing it, but also the emotional attachment you have with your friend who happens to be a realtor. So you want to help them, but sometimes you got to say no, and it gets very challenging. You might lose a lot of friends in this business, but if I had to lose a friend because they didn't want me to do, or they wanted me to do something for them that wasn't right, then that wasn't the right friend I should have had. And although it hurts to lose a friend like that, I'll be happy to do it.
You mentioned having tough conversations with sometimes friends. What's your strategy to have tough conversation? Like, how do you have a tough conversation with somebody? How do you make it so that you deliver the message, get the point across, but not yet be rude to the other person? Like, how do you have that difficult conversation with someone?
I think that's tough in any situation, regardless being the president of the board or not. Or I think that's tough to have a tough conversation with any friend. Yeah. But being in this position, having a tough conversation with them is actually asking why, like what's going on, and what is it that they want? Are they coming to me because they want something that benefits them? A real friend shouldn't put another friend in a position that will only benefit one party. Mm-hmm. If they're expecting myself to do something for them that can actually put me in harm's way, then that's something I really look at. I'll even ask them, so you do know by me doing that, I'll be in trouble. You're mad at me for not helping out a friend, but you're okay with me getting in trouble for you. And sometimes the best thing to do is ask that question and then shut up. Let them answer. See what their answer is. Yeah. You'd be surprised. Most of them will be like, oh, no, don't do it. I was just wondering. Okay, if you're wondering, then I'll see what I can do. I'll try to guide you and get you to the right directions to help you out of this. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to do something that's going to jeopardize the integrity of the organization and my own integrity. It's a lot of struggle to get to a position of this position, but it's very challenging to make sure you hold that integrity of the position. It's very easy to slip, mm-hmm. and it's very easy to come to peer pressure. I think a real true friend should never actually put you in that position. And sometimes the best thing to do is ask, mm-hmm. why are you putting me in this position? And it's not about the benefit aspect. It's literally, why are you putting me in this position? And you're going to get mad at me. I think I'm not your friend if I don't help you, but you don't care if something happens to me. Fortunately, I've never been in that kind of crazy scenario where I had to do that. Yeah. But I think a lot of my friends really understand how long and how hard it took me to get to this position. And I think I'm blessed with having people around me that won't put me in that position.
Fair enough. You mentioned something, and we were talking about something that you just said right now. Ask the question and shut up. Can you talk more about what's the thought process behind it? How does it help one in negotiations, conversations? How can someone build that technique up for themselves?
Yeah, sometimes the hardest thing to do where you're in a position of influence, power, realtor, anything, is to actually listen and truly listen rather than dictate and tell someone. You really need to understand what is it that they're looking for, what the problem is, what the criteria is. And sometimes the easiest thing to do is the hardest thing to do. It's just ask, what? Why? What's going on? What's the motivation? And then shut up and listen. You're there to actually listen. When it comes to a client, now, they're the ones going to be living in that home, not me. So it's really understanding what their needs are. One client might like Surrey. Another client might like Langley. But I can't assume that they're going to like Cloverdale. And the only way that I'm going to learn that is by asking the question and then shutting up and listening to them. Like I said, it seems like the easiest thing to do, but it's actually one of the hardest things to do because you actually want to say more. Sometimes it gets very frustrating because you know the answer and you're like, okay, but how about this? No. Okay, did you not think about this? Or how, do you have kids in the future? There are kids coming up? Oh, we plan to have kids. Oh, great. Maybe high school, elementary school, something that we're thinking about. Oh, I never thought about that. So it's asking the questions and then waiting for that response, but let them respond. And I think that goes far beyond just a professional client relationship. I think that's a very deep level for any kind of relationship. Sometimes people want to do all the talking, but just because you're talking all the time doesn't mean you're in a position of power. Yeah. The person who's listening is a person that takes it in and knows how to react and respond to the answers you give them. Yeah, my biggest tip to anybody is ask a question and then shut up and listen, because you asked a question for a reason, not to hear your own voice.
And I think a lot of people get caught up in that, just exactly what you said. They have so much to say.
Oh, it is. And like you said, it's sometimes you want to keep talking because you have all this knowledge and you want to just say everything. But just because you know something, you can't assume that they know it. Mm-hmm. And it's not you're the one that's going to be living there. Not you're the one that's going through that problem. It's not you're not the one that is going through everything that other person's going through. And so in order to actually give advice, guide or advise or even protect, how we're talking about, you really need to understand what it is that they need. What is it that they want? What is it that they're going through? In order to actually help them, you really need to listen. And to listen, you need to shut up and listen.
Yeah, it's like, how do you guide them to the answer rather than giving the answer to them? And the only way you can do it is by asking the right questions and letting them answer it.
It's like an interview, right? You ask me a question and I answer it, right? But now imagine the interview is just you just talking the whole time. I'm just sitting with the mic saying, yep. Okay, pretty boring interview, right? It's the same art. It's the art of actually just shutting up is very hard because, like you just said, you want to say something. It seems so simple, right? But you'd be surprised. You go into a room and it's sometimes the first person to talk that loses. So one of my sales techniques and things I do to train even realtors is learning how to talk and how to navigate. And slowing down in your conversation is very powerful, and not hesitating. If you ask me a question and I hesitate to give the answer, how much confidence are you going to have in me? It's like going to the doctor again. So, doctor, do you think I'll survive the surgery? Yeah. But now because of hesitation, you now got filled with doubt. Yeah, where if you ask the question, doctor, would I survive the surgery? Yeah, we will be completely fine, or we're going to do the best we can. Even his or her answer might be, we're going to do everything we can to make sure everything goes successfully. But because they didn't hesitate and was snappy right to it, you might feel more comfortable and confident rather than someone saying, yeah. Right? So the art of communication it's very important, and how to react. Listen, shut up, and then learn how to react to it.
So when you mentioned you give new sales agents the sales training, what are the things that you tell them? What does a sales training look like? What are some must-do things for a new realtor?
Must-do things for a new realtor is actually, I believe that any new realtor should really be mentored. by an agent who's seen it, been there, and not with a realtor who just cares about money. There's people like that out there. But the number one thing is when you become a new agent is learning the obstacles of this industry. You can go months without making a sale. And the frustration, the stress that comes along with that. When you have a client that tells you that I want this, and now you start getting stressed out because you're feeling they're not listening. There's a famous saying that realtors used all the time before are buyers are liars. I went to this seminar one time, and one thing that this person said really changed my view on that is, are buyers liars, or did you ask the right question? And once again, it goes to ask and then listen. So the number one thing I tell a lot of new realtors is don't hesitate when you're speaking, have confidence when you're speaking, but ask the questions you need to ask. But ask it. Doesn't matter if you're brand new. Doesn't matter if you've been in the industry 10 years. If you get the foundational aspects, that will help you achieve the level of success that you need. But ask the questions, prepare yourself. What is it that you would like to know? What is it that you wish you were asked? And then start with that. There's no real trick into what makes a great salesperson. Some people say, oh, being in the office 9 to 9 p.m. Okay, you might be making a lot of money, but what are you sacrificing? Family time? Time with kids, time with yourself, your own peace of mind. You can, and that's one of the greatest things about being a realtor, is you can do this job on vacation. You can do this job at home at 10 p.m. at night and still make a huge impact. If you do it with integrity and you do it the right way, then the world's your oyster in that sense.
So let's say hypothetical situation. I want to be a real estate agent. I come to you, be like, I want to be a part of your team. I have a license. What does the first 6 months look like for me? What are you going to help me do to get accustomed to the market?
So every mentor, as I call them, has their own training styles. I think the goal of any mentor, a really strong one, is to actually understand that agent. Because just like every client, they're all not the same. Your strength might be something completely different than that person's strength. But if I teach you as a template style, that might not be best for you. So my thing is when I take on someone new, to train someone new, is to have a sit down with them and ask them questions and shut up. It's what made you get into it? And then listen. Okay, so what do you think your biggest weaknesses are? Then listen. What's your biggest strengths? Listen. And then guide them from that. And then we were talking about protecting before too, their clients. It's also protecting the agent from themselves because what they think might be completely different than how it is. But you measure the success of how that agent's doing, not by how many deals they've done. People can do deals, but not be a good realtor too. We won't get into the details of what some realtors do. It's out there. Unfortunately, it's true. But if that realtor knows the industry, knows the knowledge, helps people out, and helps guide and advise and protect their clients the way that you do, I think that's my level of success, if they can actually help someone else to the level where they need to. But it's really actually understanding what is it that they need. The hardest thing for a new realtor when they're getting into the industry is, how do I get my first client? Oh, where do I start? How do I do here? And it gets very intimidating. Okay, well, I don't know how to talk to this person. Oh, I can't door knock. They start shaking. So I actually tell the agents that I mentor that, okay, when you make that few phone calls, screw up. They go, what? It's okay. Screw up. But you have to, I'd rather you learn from falling now than having a perfect season or playing baseball, for example. You're at bat 100 times and you hit a home run every single time. I'd be drafted by MLB, but the 101 time you strike out, your whole world collapsed because now you don't know how to get back up, as all you knew was that level. It's okay to fall down, but it's getting up. And it's a very cliche thing, right? But it's so true. There's a reason why that saying survives the test of time. It's because it's true. You learn from getting up and understanding. You can't be afraid to fall down and get hurt. But that's actually what tests your character. That you screwed up, but I'll make it right. I'll figure out why. I'll learn from this. Maybe I didn't say the right thing. Maybe I didn't ask a question, shut up. Maybe I kept on talking. Maybe I didn't listen to my client, and I told them, and they stopped calling me. Oh, what I thought was this. Help them navigate their own mistakes. Because sometimes it's very hard to see what you're doing wrong unless someone points it out. So I think the number one thing would be actually, it's okay to make a mistake as long as you learn from it and keep moving forward.
So you've been doing this for 20 some years. How, in your understanding, has the industry changed from when you first started to what you see now?
So the real estate industry, it's like a living, breathing thing. It changes all the time. What happened yesterday will be very different than what happens tomorrow. And it's much like a river. There'll be soft areas where it's calm, cool waters, and then there'll be rapid areas where it's choppy. So what changes is actually the environment all around you. Political environment, taxation, industry rules. There's so many aspects to what changes that if you as a realtor do not keep up with it, you're going to fall behind. So one of the biggest changes right now in the industry is technology. Much like WebMD, where people believe that I can just go online and, this is what I have. A lot of people have the ability now to go online and do their own searches, do this, do that, and they think that they know everything. So it becomes very challenging. And that has only progressed more and more. We didn't have all this technology 20 years ago, but now it's at their fingertips. So if you really want to be one of those agents that stand out, you need to not be afraid of technology, but learn to embrace it and use it for the best capabilities. So you shouldn't be afraid of evolution. You learn to adapt and move with it, which makes you survive, and which would actually have clients come back to you.
Yeah. So what's been their biggest change in real estate via technology that has increased for the better?
For the better. There's so many changes in technology. Now there's staging apps. Staging is when you have a home and they put furniture inside of it. So the traditional way was actually putting furniture inside. A new way now is virtual staging. And that's a really big benefit to it. Being able to have a client in a different province or further away and being able to show them pictures of the home, digitally stage what it could look like, different aspects of it, the visualization aspect, it's a huge game changer, right? The very difficult part is AI as well, though, because a lot of people think that ChatGPT is out there. I can write my own contract. I can do this. I can do that. So the challenging part and the very scary part for not only real estate industry, but many industries is technology has a way of making people lazy. But if you use it appropriately to enhance your capabilities and your profession, then it's a positive. But now if you're reliant on those sources of technology only, and you can't do, people used to do it before, right? But if you can't do this job without that piece of technology, then it's a very dangerous thing. Because let's say the power goes out and I need to do something. I don't know how to write this contract. I don't know how to write this remarks because everyone did it for me. What's your client going to think? They're not going to expect you to rely on those like ChatGPT and everything. They're going to expect you to have it. And that's why they chose you. Hopefully that's why they chose you, because they're confident in you. Technology is a blessing and a curse, but those that learn to move with it and adapt it to them rather than being scared and run away from it are the ones that are actually keep surviving and moving forward. It's like that book, Who Moved My Cheese, I was telling you about, right? And I think that's the premise of it, is moving forward and not just settling.
Let's jump into the real estate market today. It's a hot topic, especially the market that you serve. Everybody talks about it. The prices are in ways ludicrous. What's your take on it? What do you make of the current real estate market condition in the Fraser Valley area or Canada in general?
As you said, real estate's a hot topic. Yeah. It's one of those things that will always be around. In terms of what do I think of real estate, I love real estate. That's why I'm a realtor. What's happening with the market? It's very hard to say in terms of what do I think about, what do I feel about, or how is the market doing? The market's doing what it's doing. Prices go up, inflation goes up, cost goes up. There's things of it. What I tell a lot of clients is that when they're buying a property or getting into the real estate market, it's really about planning. Sometimes one of the hardest things for someone to do is not get into peer pressure. jump on the bandwagon. My aunt told me to buy this. My brother told me to buy this. My friends are buying this. It's okay, just because they're doing that, should you be doing it? Because do you know the situation that they went through? They might have different support systems. They might have been planning for 2 years. You didn't. So you shouldn't fall into that level. Sometimes the biggest fault of a lot of clients in general is falling into that trap and jumping into something when they may not have been ready. Planning is probably the most important thing a client can do. Is sit down, figure it out, go to the right people to get the answers. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that jump into a market and then unfortunately fall into a depression because they couldn't make the mortgage payments. They couldn't do this, they couldn't do that, they get foreclosed on. And then they want someone to blame. Sometimes people really need to look at themselves first. Are they in the best position to do something? Which is why a lot of people should, when they get into real estate, they should go with a realtor that actually will help guide, advise, and protect them. Because they might not know all the answers. They might know what they want, but you're the one that should be telling them what they need to know. But it's up to the client too. The client has to actually reach out and understand their capabilities and limitations. And prices are going up. Okay. Interest rates went crazy. But does that mean that they should be afraid of buying? No. I tell clients all the time, when the interest rate's high, that's when you buy. It's supply and demand. So when the interest rate's high, you have less buyers in the market because they're not getting approved. Now, if they did a lot of planning, they prepped, the interest rate jumping from 3% to 6%, not really going to make a big deal because they have the down payment saved up. Their credit's good. All that stuff is fine. So now when that property was, let's say, $1 million yesterday, interest rate went up, less buyers are there, that property may have jumped down to 880. At 880, people can't buy because the interest rate's too high. But because you planned, you prepped, you are now buying that property that once was at $1 million for 880. And guess what? In 2-3 years, the interest rate's gonna come down. And when that comes down, all those buyers that come rushing back in, and your property is not gonna be 880 anymore, it's gonna jump up. But you can only really do that if you put yourself in a position to do that. That's why when you have a realtor that helps guide, advise, and protect you, to show you those maneuvers, show you the inside outs, show you the tricks of this is what you do. And the only way a realtor can really do that, if the realtor themselves asks you the questions and then shuts up and listens, and then you react by giving the answers. Because sometimes a client needs to get the hard truth, but they're coming to you for that advice, for that guidance. And the only way we can do that is by asking the questions.
What does proper planning looks like when you try to get into real estate?
Big fundamental flaw with our high school systems. Unfortunately, they don't really teach credit. They don't teach the value of banking and all those kind of things. It's really unfortunate. I think it's almost a necessity that every person knows the value of credit and owning a property and all that stuff. Now, owning a property is not for everybody. Some people like to travel the world all the time, and renting is probably best for them. That's fine. But that means that they've planned, they have things set. But if a client wants to get into the market, one of the things I talk to them about is, thanks for coming to me. I think you did the wisest thing, and you started your process by planning. And that is talking to me first. I actually tell clients, you should actually talk to your mortgage broker. Hey, do you even know your numbers? So you told me that you want to buy a property for $800,000. Okay. So what makes you, why $800,000? Why not $900? Why not $700? Like, why $800? Oh, that's what I want. Okay. So are you buying that all cash? Do you need a mortgage? Oh, I'll get approved. You're just assuming. You haven't talked to a mortgage broker yet. I'll get approved. You should talk to a mortgage broker first. And if a realtor says, just take you on as a client without you having that pre-approval, they're not doing you justice. Because now there could be that waste of time scenario. And not waste of time in terms of, oh, you can't buy it, you can't afford it, but waste of time in terms of you could have actually guided them and make them realize and understand that although that's 800, that's what you wanted, you're at 600. You're not going to get approved. It's like going to a car dealership and let's say you might have been completely fine with the Honda Civic, a brand new one, completely fine, but you test drove a Mercedes.
Yeah.
And now that's it. You love all the features and you're like, oh my God, this is what I want. And now you go to you get out of the car and you're in the dealership and you're like, I'll take it. He's great. And comes outside and brings up a Honda Civic. You're like, well, what's this? We ran the credit and unfortunately that Mercedes is not in your price point. Now going back to, you would have been fine with the Honda Civic, but you set yourself up for failure because now nothing will be as good as that Mercedes. Mm-hmm. If you never put yourself in that position, you would have saved yourself from so much heartache, so much headache, and so much distraught. But did that realtor guide you to that? Tell you that this is what can happen and I don't want that to happen to you? Let's just find this out first. That is your first step. If you're very serious about getting into the real estate market, then that is what you need to do. If you have an agent that says, okay, I'll just do it regardless, I don't think that's an agent that actually I would want to work with. Mm-hmm. I would want an agent to actually tell me that I'm wrong. Or else, if I was right, then why do I need a realtor? I know all the answers. Why are you even coming to me? Mm-hmm. So sometimes the toughest thing to do as a realtor is disagree with your client. And that's okay. Because you're the one that's in the position of power. You're the one that's the industry professional. Mm-hmm. So I think it's more powerful to say no rather than saying yes sometimes. Right? But to guide them to why. No. So I think any new client, the hardest thing to do for any client is actually learn what step one is. A lot of people jump to step 2, step 3 without actually learning what step 1 is.
So step 1 is making sure that you are approved credit-wise?
Well, step 1 is actually the whole planning process. But yeah, know your numbers. Mm-hmm. If your dream is to, let's say your dream is to buy a Ferrari one day. Okay, you know it cost, let's say, $150,000. Yeah. Do you have that? No. So what do? You have to go to work. You have to save up. Yeah. Same thing here. You want to buy that home? Yeah. Okay, what do you need to qualify for it? Right now, you only qualify for, let's say, $800,000. That probably costs $1 million. Mm-hmm. Then you take the advice from that mortgage broker or financial institution saying, okay, right now you have $800,000, so this is what you need to do. You need to have more down payment. You need to have better credit. You need to put maybe a guarantor or someone else on title with you to bring you to that level. So it's planning right from the get-go. So it's not a small financial decision. It's sometimes very shocking how sometimes people don't really understand that how important it is. It's the biggest financial decision. Some people will sometimes plan for a whole year to go on a week trip or plan for a year to buy a car, but they won't spend a month to buy the biggest purchase of their life. Right. Well, that's what I mean. It's uncanny how people will go months or years to make this getaway dream trip, which might cost $10,000. Let's say it's or $20,000, which is a very lavish trip. But compared to $1 million, you won't spend 1 week, but you'll spend 2 years for a $20,000 trip, but not 1 week on $1 million purchase.
What do you make of the prices of the houses in Lower Mainland? Are they average? Is it affordable for newcomers to come in that area? What's your take on it?
Every area is different. BC is one of the most expensive places to live in the world. Mm-hmm. Newcomers coming here, one of the main things I would ask is why here?
I give you a common answer would be, my family, my uncle, everybody lives in this area.
Great. So you came here because family told you to come here. Are you living with them?
For now.
Yeah. Okay. So you're living with them and now you want to buy a property yourself. Okay. Well, it's really now, like I've actually had this happen quite a few times, and I'll ask them, okay, what is it you do? I'll break it down again. I'll start asking the questions. What do you want to buy? Mm-hmm. What is that you have in your mind? Because I need to understand it. Why here? And what is your 5-year plan? Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll get really weirded out by me asking, what's your 5-year plan? I'm like, because in 5 years, where do you see yourself? Do you still plan to live here? Do you plan to get married? Do you plan to have kids? Because what really affects your purchase decision. If you plan to get married and have kids in 5 years, then is a 1-bedroom condo sufficient for you? So if you're saying that, no, I might move to Calgary afterwards, Okay, so maybe purchasing here is not the right decision. Maybe saving up is the right decision for you, right? So is it affordable here? It's very difficult for a lot of people to afford here who were born here. The real estate climate here it's one of the most expensive in the world. Unfortunately, the cost of living in British Columbia, the wages don't match our housing.
I do math in my head, right? So if I see a $1.5 million house, I know exactly what the mortgage is going to be. But what I'm getting at is I find a lot of times people have overextended themselves in the places that yeah. So how does that look like? Is the market in a condition where people talk a lot about foreclosures coming and people talk a lot about with the interest rates going up that people are not going to be able to make up their mortgage payments? What is the ground reality from what you know?
The unfortunate reality is sometimes people don't have the right people on their corner. You talked about interest rates and making mortgage payments, all that kind of stuff. We just went through a very dramatic interest increase when the variable rate was down like at 2% at one point. And then it jumped to what, 6, 7%? So someone who was in a variable mortgage rate and they're paying $5,000 a month mortgage at that time, now went up to 6%. What, they're paying $15,000 now, right? That mortgage broker that they decided to work with at that time, how come they didn't advise them? How come they didn't tell them to lock in? Where was the advice then? You, as a person, as a buyer, did you reach out? And if you did reach out and they never told you this, were you working with the right person? Unfortunately, I've seen this happen quite a few times where I've had clients cry to me saying, Jeff, I need to get out of this. I can't afford this. My mortgage payment's $15,000 and I have to move to the States because I can't afford it here anymore and give up everything. And it's unfortunate because they didn't have the right guidance, which is very unfair. And you feel really bad for some of these people that because if they were only given the right guidance and someone told them to lock in for the interest mortgage payment part, they would have been fine. And remember I said before is that with real estate, the wrong advice, you can lose everything. Sometimes not giving advice can make someone lose everything. So in this scenario here, they almost lost everything because they didn't get the guidance and the person that was supposed to help them didn't. And now that mortgage broker is still doing deals, they're fine, but that client is now left in shambles. People go into foreclosures and basically almost lose everything. But the real aspect is if someone plans properly, should they have even gone to foreclosure? And now there are situations that happen in life that, you can't control, right? People, job market crashes, all that kind of stuff. Those are the unforeseen and those are the unfortunate situations. But if you put yourself in a position to buy a property and you can't afford it, then who really put you in that position? You did it yourself. But the mortgage broker and the realtor should have guided you to say no. I've actually said no to clients. I'm like, no, I won't. I can't be the agent that's going to let you buy this because I know what's going to happen. I tell clients all the time, private lending. They go, oh, I'm going to get a private lend. I'm like, you're going to get a private lend? I'm like, okay, why? Someone told me that they'll give me a private lending. I'm like, how much for? They go, I want to buy this property, so I'm going to do a private lend of $700,000. I'm like, okay. How much do you make a year? Oh, I'll make about $75,000. So it's a 1-year term, is it? Yeah. At 10, 12%? Oh, okay. Interest only? Yeah. So in 1 year, you make $70,000 and you expect to pay back $700,000? Does that make sense? You good at math in your head, you said? Does that make sense at all? It doesn't. Unfortunately, what happens is sometimes these industry people tell them, oh, we'll get you a refinance on a normal mortgage next year. It doesn't happen sometimes, unfortunately. And the client was given bad advice, bad guidance, and they're the ones that are now suffering. They put themselves in that position. If they sat down and planned and figured out that, okay, maybe I'm not at that level now. Maybe the reason I couldn't get my mortgage because my credit was bad. So let's build up my credit. Let's do this. But because the social environment around them and their peer pressure told them you need to buy a home, you might be happy for, 9 months? But they're going to be sad for 10 years because of what happened. So it goes right back to the guide, advise, and protect. And sometimes, as I said before, you have to sometimes protect the client from themselves. And that's one of those examples is no, I can't let you do that. And if you want to do it, then don't do it with me, because I won't be held responsible. There's a lot of challenging things, especially when it comes to real estate. There's a lot of horror stories, but no one hears about the success stories. Mm-hmm. No one hears about the client that you helped maybe for 3 years trying to get to that position. No one hears those stories. They just hear that this realtor screwed me over, that mortgage broker did this. Yeah. But no one hears the success story of this client came here, wanted to buy this property, you convinced them and guided them not to, but we will help you get to that position where you can and thrive. I would rather you buy a Mercedes in 3 years than just buy a Honda Civic now and then that's it. Let's save you up and let's get you that position to do it. So no one really hears those success stories, which is unfortunate, right? Because everybody just hears the horror stories, but they don't actually see or hear all the good of it, which is it's an unfortunate aspect.
You're talking about the private lending. It's funny because actually I have somebody I know who just got themselves into a private lending situation, and I was like, don't do this, but they went ahead and did it. And it's like the same thing. They have, I think it's 1 million for private lender with 7.5 to 8% on a 1-year loan. And I think it was like $96,000 in the first year. That's all just interest. Things are working fine for him, but at the same time, I'm like, why would you want to push yourself to such extremes where you're hanging by a thread?
See, private lending, it's not that it's a bad thing, but it's not for the person who's buying their first home. That's not what private lending should be for. Private lending it should be more for people that maybe have 5-6 properties, have a lot of cash on hand, can easily make the mortgage payments, but because of the amount of properties they have, their loan to debt ratio is really off. So the bank won't give them the mortgage, but they can easily afford it. That's who actually private lending should be for. Not for your first property, because you already started rolling the dice in a risky game. Yeah. But if something happens, what are you going to do? Mm-hmm. It all comes back to the guidance aspect. And I believe that if you're a realtor that holds this position in the industry with a lot of integrity in the way you want to do it, then you won't let your client go down that route. And sometimes the most powerful thing to do is say no. Yeah. Don't take them on.
A lot of people have been flipping properties left, right, center. I think it's more evident in the last 6 to 7 years. I know a lot of people who are now stuck with 4, 5, 6 houses and they can't go through the inventory because there's no buyers in the market to buy that kind of stuff. How do you see that practice? What's your take on it? I think there's no right or wrong about it because people want to make money and that's the way of making money. But does it then rule out other people off the market?
I think it's really important to understand it's what you just said right now. There's no right or wrong to it. Everybody's financial situation is different. Well, what I can afford to lose might be completely different than what you can afford to lose. Mm-hmm. It really comes back down to the whole planning aspect. Mm-hmm. Now, and that's where the bandwagoning and the emotional part comes in, because everybody's doing it. Everybody's making money. I don't want to be the last one to do it. Mm-hmm. But if the market crashed, that other person that did it, are they financially stable to handle that loss? Mm-hmm. Are you? And it's unfortunate right now because that what you just said right now is very true. It happens all the time, especially with the pre-sale market right now. Yeah. I actually did a podcast like 3 years ago, warning people about pre-sales. Said, listen, what's crazy right now, I completely understand that everybody buys pre-sales and they flip it before it completes and they're making money. But what's going to happen in 3 years when not only this building's complete, but you have 6 other buildings right around that complete? Mm-hmm. So when you go to sell, so are they. Mm-hmm. It's the supply and demand aspect. Mm-hmm. Did you look that far into the future? So right now, what's happening, unfortunately, is people are trying to sell their property for even less than what they paid for it. They're willing to lose money because that's what the market is right now. But the ability to foresee it, that's where that realtor aspect comes in, and going with an agent who has experience and not just tells you, no, don't do it, but explains why you shouldn't do it. Right? That's that's the real power of having an experienced agent. Mm-hmm. And once again, experience doesn't mean you have to be in the industry for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Experience means the knowledge you have in the time frame that you have it in. So you can be a brand new agent today, but you might be a better agent in terms of you understand the market, you've done your research, you've been in the real estate market, but in different capacities. So it right now, yeah, a lot of people were making money, but just because that's what happened yesterday doesn't mean that's going to happen today.
Yeah.
And what happened today won't mean what's going to happen tomorrow. So you really have to go back to what I said before, planning, understanding. If you're not in that position to lose that money, then you're literally just gambling.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people are just straight gambling. I know a lot of people who are in the market just to make that quick buck. And they have. You know?
Oh, yeah.
People made a lot of money with the last little while. So where do you see the market going further? Do you see it crashing, a little bit refresh over the next year, 2 years?
I think it's really important to understand when people say the word crash or bubble burst, I don't see it that way. I think it's a correction, a stabilization to where it needs to come. The BC market, especially in the lower mainland, was driven by emotions. It was emotional purchases. People would go spend 100,000 over asking, 200,000 over asking, go subject free offers, all these kind of things. But it was an emotional decision. They were buying it because everybody else told them to. The media said this, and now that's happening. But how come that didn't happen everywhere else? Why was it just BC and Toronto, the two biggest ones? Why not Calgary? Why not all those other places? But why here and there? And that's another aspect. But it was an emotionally based driven market. And now that the realization came back to play, prices now started slowly settling down. Interest rates are another huge aspect of it. So it's really hard to determine what's going to happen next year. I can't tell you what's going to happen next year. I can barely tell you what's going to happen in 3 months, right? There could be a world aspect, a pandemic, COVID, right? That changes everything. It changes all the rules out of the window. So it's really hard for me to sit here and say, this is what's going to happen. If I know that's what's going to happen, why am I not buying all this stuff, everything? So I think the benefit of having a realtor is to guide you and advise you and understand you for the position you want to be in and help you get to there. But we're not psychics. We're more like economists, but help guide you using these factors and tell you this is what's going to happen, or this is what could happen, and here's this, here's that, here's this. So help you get to that position.
Yeah. So the economist can make like calculated guesses about where they see things going from here. So when you were in the market trying to make a deal, what does a good opportunity looks like?
So myself, when I was looking for an investment style, it's actually understanding the market, and that's not sometimes falling on peer pressure, is knowing what I want. So my goal is to make money on that property. So I bought in Calgary 2.5 years ago, and everyone said, Jeff, you're stupid. Why are you buying there? Why are you buying there? But I did my research. I looked at the infrastructure. I looked at the immigration numbers. I looked at everything going on, and I made an educated decision. I also hired a realtor in Calgary to help guide and advise me, saying, well, what do you think? What areas here? This is what I want. So even myself, I hired a realtor. I'm a realtor who hired a realtor, that should show you the importance of it. Yeah. So what I look for is for a property that obviously goes up in value, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to buy where everybody else is buying, because maybe where everybody else is buying is now inflated. It's overpriced, which is what happened in the lower mainland. Everybody was buying and their prices went up. So sometimes I buy where no one else buys, but the property in Radium. Which again, I never heard of it. Why? So I looked at the tourism numbers. I looked at this. Luckily, I'm still allowed to do Airbnb, and I wasn't affected by the industry rule change of the short-term rentals. So all those kind of small little factors come into play, but it's planning. So what I tell my clients is what I do to myself, is planning, understanding of what is it and why. So if I can ask myself that, then why shouldn't I ask the client that?
So we were talking about it as well. It's around ethics. Maybe it falls under that bracket or doesn't fall under that bracket, but it's around some of the practices that realtors lately have been doing on social media. And there's all different kinds of things, from marketing to singing songs to dancing. There's all kinds of stuff that happens.
So I've been asked this question quite a few times. Now, as long as that realtor is not breaking any laws, first off, that's one aspect. I think the realtor really needs, any realtor in this conversation that's doing crazy addicts or advertising, I think the realtor really needs to understand that they are not just holding their own integrity, but they're holding the integrity of the whole industry. And if throwing pies at some people's faces and on yourself, and that's how you do business, and you're fine with it and you're good with it, but you come out and you give the best service to your client and that's what you do, then so be it. That's how you market yourself. So be it. I don't have a problem with that. If you're providing the service that you need to do. But do you want to be known as a gimmick? Do you want to be known as, that pie throwing realtor, and that's all you're known for? You're not known for your service. You're not known for giving exceptional results. You're not known to be trustworthy. You're just known as that pie throwing realtor. I don't know if I want to be known as that joke realtor.
Yeah.
But if that's that advertiser, those advertisers to bring them in, but you prove everybody wrong by giving that exceptional service, I don't have a problem with that. But I think the realtor really needs to understand, like realtors in general, that you're holding the whole industry's respect and integrity for any time you're putting out any information there. So it's not just your name on the line. It's the whole industry's name.
That's a valid point, right? Because they're not doing anything wrong. You might not be okay with what they're doing, and you might not like it, but they're not still wrong.
Exactly. And so many people ask me that question. They go, "You shouldn't be allowed. You guys at the board should do something." What do you want us to do?
Yeah.
Are they breaking any laws because you don't like it? It's wrong. That's pretty ignorant.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you don't like something, it's wrong. I don't like the color blue, so you can't wear blue anymore. Right? Well, I like color blue. Well, I don't like it, so you can't do it. Really? That's pretty screwed up.
Yeah.
So just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because you don't approve something doesn't mean that it can't happen. But if these people are breaking the rules and the laws of the land or advertising standards, then that's wrong. But if they're not doing that, then it comes a moral decision for that realtors. Are you keeping the industry name in a good position? And is that the image you want to portray?
Let's talk about your upbringing.
Being from an immigrant family, how has it changed now that you're a father? What changes do you see in Canada back then to what it is now?
I grew up in basically Richmond, BC. My older brother, mom and dad. And actually one of the biggest changes I see now is the effect of technology, which we talked about before. I remember coming home from school, in elementary school, or coming back from my family's house at like 5 p.m. or something. They'll parents and brother and everybody were driving back home, coming back home, and I think probably maybe grade 6, something. And getting onto our street, we would look down the street to see who's playing hockey, right? And right when we get inside the home, we grab our hockey stick and we run down. I haven't seen kids play hockey on the street. Right? You look at kids nowadays, unfortunately, they're glued to their phones. And it's very scary because that social interaction, that art of communication is dying. So the biggest thing when we were younger was that whole interaction, getting out, playing, being outdoor.
Yeah.
So that aspect changed. In terms of the ethnic upbringing, we had a very traditional household. And sometimes the challenging part is when you go to high school or go to school is, where do I fit in? What groups do I chill with? Do I hang out with the other East Indian people because I'm East Indian? Or can I have a friend who's white? Can I have a friend that's Chinese? What would other people think? It's that social acceptance is very, very difficult. I had a lot of East Indian friends, but actually that wasn't my main group that I hung out with in high school. I hung out with a very big mix group. So unfortunately, that didn't make me the popular kid with these East Indian group friends. I was the outcast. Like, oh, look at that guy. He thinks he's better than everybody. He's a loser. Why? Because that's what they thought. But that also sometimes can be very depressing because you're not accepted by your quote unquote own. And so that itself is sometimes very challenging growing up because what other people think of you really does have a big impact on you, whether you show it or not. And then going to college was another big change. Where do I fit in there? All the friends I had before are not really here, all that factors. But the parents have always been supportive. Always, okay, let's get you to school here. Let's do this. Let's do that. I'm getting yelled at a lot. But I think getting yelled at was one of the things that actually helped me get on the right track. It's having that respect for them. I think those that don't, and I'm not saying discipline doesn't hit or anything, but take the time and talk to them and discipline and take the time to actually communicate is very unfortunate. And the art of communication is dying, even with being a new dad. Oh, not a new dad, but being a dad is actually having that communication with your children. So one thing I do with my kids, and that's what we were talking about yesterday, was that if my son Ronik or my daughter Sahana, they want to buy something, I'm like, okay, sure. you know the rule. And I'm like, okay, Dad. So what the rule is, what I do is I get them to get a piece of paper and a pen or pencil, and I get them to write on it what it is, where to buy it from, how much it cost, and what you're going to use it for, and how it will benefit you. Kind of like a mini business plan. Yeah. And then they have to write that and give it to me like a business plan, like a proposal. And then I'll decide if I want to get it to you. So if you don't take that first step, I'm not even going to consider it. And so it's not about, I want you to do extra work, but I want them to start using their mind and appreciation and that cognitive sense of thinking. Get away from the chat GPT. Don't be that reliant source of that's what you need to do in order to achieve something. That should be a tool to enhance, right? But not to be one of those tools that you have to rely on.
Yeah, it shouldn't replace your own brain.
No, it shouldn't. I think that's a very scary thing to moving on to today's society. I think that's the most scariest thing for parents or just the generation is the reliance on technology, which we're looping back around to technology makes us lazy. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's a very scary time that technology has gone that far advanced where the danger of, are we losing the ability to have our own cognitive thoughts? Are we losing the ability to have our own thought process, to communicate? Am I relying on this to solve my problem? So the art of communication is dying, unfortunately.
I agree with you. And that's what causes people anxieties, because they are always behind the screens and this and that. So when they actually have to be in a social setting and interact with people one-on-one, they don't know what to do. And it all seems overwhelming to them at many times.
You go to a child right now and go to them and be like, do me a favor, how do you hold your phone? And it's funny, people my age and everything, what we would do, we would go like this. That's what we did. You go to a child now, what do? Like this. Try it. Go to any child and say, put your phone to your ear, and that's what they'll do. There's the technology environment, everything has changed. But the art of negotiation, it's very scary that it's being lost. And so that's why with my children, that's what I do. It's, if you want something, this way, not that I want to, it's not a punishment thing, but they might not appreciate why I'm doing that right now, but it's actually for them.
Yeah, you're setting them up for success.
Hopefully.
What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Oh, invest into, it's easier said than a lot of people say, if I went back 20 years, this is what I would do, this is what I would do. So the best advice I can give to myself when I was 20 is actually and this is kind of like a personal mantra I use now, is stop stressing about the problem. Stress about the solution. You're going to have a problem, but if you're only stressing about the problem in life, then you're actually not spending the time to actually find out how to solve it. You're actually just making the problem bigger because you haven't spent time to try to figure out. So the problem's going to be there. It's not going to go away. So if you're going to have that stress, then stress for the right reason. Stress to figure it out of how to solve it. So the best advice I would probably give my 20-year-old self is, problems are going to happen, things are going to happen, but stress about the solution, and it would have saved so much grief, so much headache, so much time, so much mental anguish, so much relationships, because I stressed about the problem so much where it caused so many other problems to start occurring around me. Social environments, relationship with family, everything. Because I would only fixate on the problem. But if I stressed about the solution, I could have found out how to solve it. Maybe go to friends, do this, do that, go to family, and it would have been solved. That's probably the number one advice I would give myself, is what I'm doing today. It's, I don't stress about the problem anymore. I stress about the solution.
I think it's a great advice for everyone who's listening in.
It's copyrighted, by the way, trademark. Anyone uses that.
If you could put anything on a billboard for the entire country of Canada to see, what is your message going to be and why?
Stress about the solution, not the problem. Honestly, I think that a lot of people really need to learn the difference of that. Right? Mental health is such a huge aspect nowadays. Right? A lot of people have a lot of stress and they don't know how to relieve it. So it's unfortunate right now. The industry is at the whole country, the whole world is at a whole different level. So my message probably is, stress is going to be there. You can't stop that, but stress about the solution. Try to figure out how to fix it rather than focusing on it's broken. right? So yeah, that's probably, if I put it on a billboard, that's would probably be it. The message I would give to my 20-year-old self is the message I would give to everybody.
What are you most excited about over the next 2 years, 5 years? What do you have in the works?
Honestly, the unknown's exciting. Because I don't know what's going to happen, whether it be real estate career, board career. I don't know what's going to happen, right? And I think the most exciting thing is actually watching the kids grow up to see who they're going to be. Yeah. Really, realistically, it's seeing them develop, right? And seeing what they're going through and how much they change. Like my daughter, she negotiates more than me, and she's 7. I'll call home late, and she'll be, Dad, you're home late. I'm like, yeah. She goes, where's my doll? I'm like, what? She goes, oh, you hesitated. Now I need 2. I'm like, huh? That was 3 now. Well, where are you learning this from? Oh, Dad, I watch your shows. I'm like, oh, I guess I got to be happy that she's watching. But it's costing me money. Just seeing that evolution, just seeing them, that's what I'm most excited about. So that's something I don't know. But just watching them grow, it's actually what I'm excited about.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Like hour and some. Yeah, I think it's time we wrap this up. Bring this to a close. Before I do that, any final words, parting thoughts?
When it comes to, like you said, going to the real estate level, whether it be immigrants from another country or even people down here, I think it's very important to, if you plan to get into the real estate market, to have someone that actually will help guide, advise, and protect you. For yourself, as either an immigrant or a person looking in the market, it's to actually have that plan. Don't fall into these pit traps. Don't do it just because everyone else does it. They might have a whole different set of financial situations and opportunities than you have. So really plan. Even if you're in a different country and you plan to come here, you still plan to come here. So have a game plan. Have a 5-year goal set out, and then work to get that done. And now, that doesn't mean you have to map out everything, but at least have something in the works, and then have the right support system around you to help you achieve that. And the support system you have around you are not helping you do that, then dump them and get a better support system, because they're not ones that actually want to see you achieve. Now, your parents don't support you. I'm not saying dump them. I think you get what I'm saying, right? But I think that's probably the thing that I would want to wrap up in. Is planning is such a huge factor. And then having that support structure around you is a huge factor. And then you need to be confident to reach out to get that support.
That's a perfect way to sum up this conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.